Whether or not you like this show will depend on how you feel about Taika Waititi. What's up? I'm John Stark from ActTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic. Today, we're going to talk about Time Bandits. It's the new Apple Plus show. They dropped the first two episodes. I've seen both of them. This show does have audio description. It's performed by Roy Samuelson. I believe it's done by Point360. Um, so this is a series adaptation of Time Bandits, the movie, which was directed by Terry Gilliam. And the series is now co-created with Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement. So it does have a little bit of Clement's humor in here as well, if you are a Flight of the Conchords fan. But it also really feels like a Taika Waititi show. And that's why I was saying, if you just don't like Taika anymore, which it seems like there are people who are giving Taika backlash, then this won't be for you. Regardless of how you feel about Time Bandits, if you're trying to compare it to the movie, this is Taika. This bleeds Taika. Just like Terry Gilliam, a lot of the stuff that he did bled Monty Python. This just feels like it could air directly after What We Do in the Shadows, and I think people would think it was the same show. I mean, you could wake up and be like, what happened to the vampire? And what are they time traveling now? Like, you wouldn't even miss a beat. So, same style of humor, but does it work? Well, let's talk about it. So, the show centers around Kevin, an 11-year-old who is a history buff. And like an insane history buff, like way over the top history buff. And his own parents don't really like him. His parents are just kind of like TV watchers, and they're just like, Kevin, do normal things, stop talking about history. And one day, Kevin's wardrobe opens up to a world where a Viking runs in and jumps in his room, and he's like, where'd this Viking come from? And he tries to tell his parents about it. He's like, there's a Viking in my room. He's like, it's probably just a dream. And he goes back up there and he's like, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Viking, you're not really here because it's a dream. And later on, a similar thing happens, and the titular Time Bandits show up, a group of sort of incompetent, nondescript, I don't know, group of people. You can tell how I felt about that. Anyway, uh, they, they're running from the Supreme Being, which is a scary demon voice thing that kind of peeks its head into the room, and then they run and they jump through the wardrobe. All of these missed opportunities for Narnia references, by the way. Not all of this jumping through a wardrobe and not one Narnia joke. I was just like, why? You can make a joke. You should be able to make a joke about Narnia. Like, I really expected him to walk through the wardrobe and then out and then be like, is this Narnia? And then he sees the Vikings running out. Like, it's such a, like, it may be an easy joke, but it's almost like an expected joke when you have a kid walking through a wardrobe. And they keep jumping out of this fucking wardrobe. And I'm like, is anybody going to make a Narnia joke? Or are we just like afraid to do it? Are you afraid to see whether or not it works? You're just going to we're just going to keep jumping in and out of wardrobes and pretending like we don't know what Narnia is. So yeah, they time travel and they keep jumping through portals and they travel through different points in time. And the adults, led by Lisa Kudrow, as Phoebe, that feels right. Anyway, they are there to steal things from history and then jump to other points in history and steal things from those things in history. They don't really ever say why. they just kind of have their own thing. They have this weird dynamic with Kevin where they don't really like Kevin, and they're they keep trying to leave him places, and they don't. Kevin understands history, and he usually can figure out where they are and why it's important, and they clearly know nothing about history. Um, and then they jump again, and they're in another point in history. This must have been a bitch to film, by the way. Just like I can't even. I don't even know what the budget for Time Bandits would be, but because they keep jumping to different points in history, they would have all these different costuming. They have this different set. They have. It looks like it's in a different part of the world. I mean, they have. He has a scene on the beach with like Vikings, and then they're like at Stonehenge, and then they're over with the Mayans, and then they're at Troy and the Trojan horse, and they're with the Chinese pirates in the Indian Ocean. It's just like, oh my God. Like, what a crazy series. This is the kind of thing that never would have been greenlit back in the day because the budget, and that's just sort of like encompasses the first two episodes of like, I don't think that's every place that they travel. Plus, you have the Supreme Being and also Pure Evil and sort of their visual effects where they are as the thing progresses and the demons that are chasing them. This seems like a really expensive VFX heavy show that Apple has taken a risk on based on a property that is a risk to try to remake because Time Bandits is sort of a cult classic, and I'm not gonna say it's impossible. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Joss Whedon took a movie that didn't do well, like kind of a cult classic, turned it into a hit seven season run TV show, so that people still adore today, whether they adore Joss Whedon or not. They still adore Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So it's possible that Time Bandits, and it's not like I didn't like it. It just has problems. So let's talk about that. First off, I will acknowledge the fact that there's a problem that both the show and the audio description have, which is really poor character descriptions / introductions. This is just like in general, this is like the worst way to introduce people. So Kevin is fine. We spend a lot of time with Kevin. I feel like I have a pretty grounded effort of Kevin. And then it just kind of like I would retitle the show Lisa Kudrow and Friends, which would be really obviously catchy because she was on Friends. Anyway, very sort of like, haha, I get it. Because the other characters here are so underdeveloped. I don't even know what their personalities are. Like they barely, she talks 90% of the time, and like one of them will pop up with some sort of like, it's like she's got just like the Three Stooges behind her or something like that. And she's the leader, and they're like, occasionally they're like making a crack or something. And it's like, you can't all three be the same fucking character. Like, this is not a thing. You can't all three. This show is not going to work if you guys do not have distinct personality traits. And in the first two episodes, I didn't feel like any of those characters really distinguished anything except for the few moments where they sit around a campfire and they're like, this is so-and-so, a master of disguise. And he does like a little thing where he proves that he does like an accent, and then he goes back and he's like, haha, you didn't realize those are two different people. And it's like that's your fucking character, man. That's the whole introduction we get. And then for the rest of the time, he really doesn't talk. Like, he doesn't do anything else. And they do that for the others. And it's just like, that's not character development. That's not a character. That's a trait. It's like being, this is Arlo. We have him because he's tall. And we need him to reach things on shelves. It's like, okay, all right, thank you for that. What's he like? Is he quiet? Is he shy? Does he like coloring books? Like, does he have any sort of unique personality trait other than this gimmick thing that you've given him, this random sort of quote reason for being there? And I love Roy. I think his voice on this is fine. Like, I don't have a problem with that. But I like the audio description that he's narrating is not good. The character introductions here are really just like, eh. And then they travel to all these wonderful places, and man, we got really surface level descriptions of like the Mayan Empire, how the Mayans are dressed. I mean, we're traveling to all these places, and it's like really brief descriptions. It's like the bare minimum to get through the show. This show like spent easily. This is easily a six-figure show for Apple. Um, and the character descriptions are weak, and the locations and set and everything is weak. Is he good at tracking people? Yeah, the audio description is good at tracking people, and it's complimentary in a way where it feels like it's also telling a story. So, like, um, you may jump somewhere and it won't immediately describe the place to you until Kevin tells you where you are, type of thing. And then, you know, and then it's like as everyone else is realizing where they are, then it's like, oh, we're all here, like, type of thing. Like him stepping onto the beach was done. He stepped onto the beach and looked around, and or he steps onto. They do it again too, and there's like Neanderthals behind him, and we don't immediately know they're Neanderthals until the joke sets. So it does a good job of keeping sort of like the gags of that kind of thing. Well, but now the character introductions, and I do have a thought because I can hear somebody's going to say, well, the scene that they're introduced into doesn't really allow for character descriptions. That doesn't mean that you don't get to do them in the scene in which they're introduced. It means that you then have to find a way to introduce these characters later on when it's less chaotic. So, because this is a series that could feasibly run for however long, and you can't just use the excuse of the lead characters were introduced initially in a way that did not allow for character description as an excuse to never describe them as characters. So, um, uh, over the course of 2 episodes, we should know more about them. But that's also a note for the writers. Like, aside from Lisa Kudrow, who takes up like 90% of their talking, I should have known more about the other Time Bandits. So the series doesn't really work on either of those fronts. As somebody who I haven't seen the movie Time Bandits, so I can't even compare it to that. This is just me. And I like Taika. I like Thor Love and Thunder. I thought that was a good movie. I found it entertaining. I love What We Do in the Shadows. I love Our Flag Means Death. Reservation Dogs is okay. It's not my favorite show, but it's okay. And uh, I like a lot of his movies. I would say Hunt for the Wilder People was probably his best. It's I know it's not the one that it's not his best picture nominee, but it's the one that I'm like, huh. I thought that was really interesting. That was really so. Anyway, um, I would consider myself a fan of Taika, and I see what he's doing here, and I think it's going to be fun and entertaining, but at the same time, it's not the strongest effort he's done. And what I love about his other shows is that I feel like all of his characters have distinct personalities. I think What We Do in the Shadows does that really well. He establishes those vampires, and they all have really distinct personalities. Reservation Dogs, they all have distinct personalities. Our Flag Means Death was a little bit more like we have leads and we have supporting, and as the show grew, the supporting cast got more personality. This has this cannot just be a Lisa Kudrow show. That's not what it is. It just can't be that. Lisa Kudrow and Kevin, and then there's some people following them around. I don't think that's what this is supposed to be. So we have to do something with the other characters. It feels like that there's Time Bandits is not Lisa Kudrow and Kevin. That's not what that title is. Is the two of them? Like, then who are these other people following them? I just need better description for them. I need to know, and that's on both ends. That's audio description, and that's the writing. The actual writing for the show really underdevelops them and puts it all on Lisa Kudrow. So she has to like carry this show around uh, by herself. Just like, well, it's mine. Uh, okay, cool. Um, I thought the boy who plays Kevin does a really good job in this. Kid actors put a lot of weight on them in situations like this, especially when they have to handle humor like this. He does a really nice job being a nerdy little history buff. So I enjoyed his performance. I think Lisa Kudrow is fun here. It reminds me a lot of sort of how she played her evil twin on Friends. Uh, um, but it's got a little bit of that just snarkiness to it, like dismissiveness. Um, but she's good at it. I need more. Um, I I don't know where this is gonna go. I think it's dropping at a weird time. It's dropping at a time when people are looking at Taika and being like, I think we've had enough of you for a little while, which is really funny because that's the representation that you're hearing more from just like the internet, right? That's like fans on the internet. That's not reality. The reality is he just got two Best Comedy Series nominations in the same year for What We Do in the Shadows and Reservation Dogs. So he just got the Go Fuck Yourself award to people who keep calling him out on whatever problem they have with him. So, it's just he can do whatever he wants. It's a weird time because it's sort of like everything Disney does is under scrutiny. Anything you release with Marvel is under scrutiny. Anything Star Wars related is under scrutiny. Well, anything Taika does is under sort of like a raised scrutiny right now. It's not really fair. But yeah, the trolls will be trolls. So, but there is something to be said here for the fact they could have done this better. Absolutely. And the other Time Bandits are really underdeveloped, and the audio description doesn't help that. So this is not my favorite audio description track, which hurts because Roy is one of my favorite narrators. This is probably the least favorite thing of his that I've heard him do. I can't think of another thing that a while. I'm kind of like, did he look at this and go, am I going to be describing the characters ever? Is the setting like, I mean, I'm sure like when you look at it and you're like, they're, because they do talk a lot and you're like, where is um, where's the space? Like, where do we put in the description and everything? And it can't just be this. A show this interesting, this can't be it. This can't be the level of description because it's never gonna soar. It's never gonna fly that way. Nobody's ever gonna get drawn into this. This is not audio description that immerses anybody in anything. This is just audio description that helps you follow the basic plot line. This is really just a basic thing. Meanwhile, the show is anything but. So I wanted so much more from this. On both fronts, though. Like, I expect more from Taika. I expect him to have a developed cast because he's good at that, and he doesn't do that here. And I expect the audio description to know what it's representing and to introduce those characters to me and to realize that we're jumping from everywhere from prehistoric times all the way through to these weird scenes with the evil, pure evil and supreme whatever. And there's so much. This is this is either a heavily green screen show or it took them a long time to shoot to find all these different locations. Even if they shot sort of relatively in the same area, they still were traveling within that area a lot to go to the beach, to go shoot on a body of water, to find something that looks resembling Stonehenge area where they can make like a Stonehenge set. Yeah, I mean, like, there's so many different things here. Anyway, um, kudos to trying something, taking a swing for Taika and Jermaine. But this can be better. I'm optimistic about the future. I think Lisa Kudrow's doing a good job, and it's almost impossible to not say that because she is the show at this point. They're basically just handing her all of the good lines, and she has a bunch of people who just stand around her and go, well, yeah, we should do that. Oh, we gotta, I think we should die. I don't want to die. You know, it's like they kind of all just kind of say the same. She has like a chorus of people that say relatively the same thing. So, and have no distinct personalities. So it's all on her. So based on 2 episodes, it's like, oh yeah, she could get a Best Actress nomination. I was kind of surprised Matt Berry got a nomination for What We Do in the Shadows because I always thought the problem with What We Do in the Shadows is it's like, who do you nominate? Because they're all excellent, because they all have balanced equal screen time. It's really hard to pick, you know, I kind of feel bad for Kayvon Novak, you know. Um, it's not that Matt Berry isn't good, it's that Kayvon should be there, you know. Harvey Guillen should be there. You know, it's like when you single out one of them in that ensemble, it's really weird. It's, I know a lot of people were really happy for him, but I also kind of felt icky for it. I was like, I don't like this nomination because none of the rest of the cast is getting nominated. And he's not necessarily infinitely better than the rest of the cast to where he demands recognition. Here, I wouldn't have a problem with that because everyone else is so poorly developed that if Lisa Kudrow was the only person who got nominated, I'd be like, yeah, that tracks. So, and also same thing actually with Our Flag Means Death. I mean, Rhys Darby had so much more there to work with most of the time than everybody else. So it would have been a justifiable single nomination for that series. But I don't know. He's usually good at balancing cast work, and that's not happening in the first 2 episodes of this. Maybe it'll happen later on in the series, but what I usually say about pilots is you're never guaranteed more than 1 episode. You know, people will start, they'll turn on the show, and they'll start watching. And nowadays, with the amount of TV that we have going on, you're not even guaranteed they're going to finish the first episode. They could back out. They could be like, nope, watch 10 minutes of that. It sucked. You know, I mean, you really have to hit hard in the beginning and get them with the concept, get them with the cast, bring people in. And I think mostly conceptually, I understand what the show is doing, but in terms of the cast, I have no idea who these people are. So I don't know. I don't know if this is going to work for Apple. We'll see. It's going to have people who have a preconceived notion based on the movie. I don't, because I admit that I haven't seen the movie. And it's not available with audio descriptions. So me watching the film without audio descriptions is just not going to help me find a balance right now. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to have a better opinion of the show or a worse opinion of the show because I watched the movie without audio description. It's kind of something I should have done before I lost my vision that I didn't know was going to happen. So, at some point in my life, I would have watched Time Bandits, but now I have to watch things differently. So, yeah, Time Bandits. It's on Apple Plus. You can check it out or not check it out. For me, it's actually kind of about how I felt about Reservation Dogs. It's not my favorite Taika show, but What We Do in the Shadows is really hard to top. It's kind of perfect, and it's really hard to get past that. So he could do more of that here, especially with What We Do in the Shadows having only 1 season left. Our Flag Means Death is over. Reservation Dogs is over. So if this is going to be his new thing, go all in. He didn't really do that. I'm still excited for 3rd episode, but a little bit less than I should be for a Taika production. I'll give Time Bandits episodes 1 and 2 a B. I like Taika. I like his sense of humor, but he could be doing better. And the audio description, honestly, could be too. So, but that's it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.